So upstairs we were saying how rapidly aviation technology evolved during World War I. The same thing happened during World War II. Above us, this is the world's first cruise missile. This is a V-1 rocket developed by the Germans and used in World War II. It has what's called a pulse engine. And the way that would work, there would be vents in the front that would open up, allow air to come in. The vents would close, fuel would be added and ignited, and the resulting thrust would push the drone forward. And then they would repeat the process all over again of opening the vents, closing the vents, adding fuel, igniting the fuel, etc. So as it flew through the sky, it made a noise like put, 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 put. And the British gave it the nickname of the buzz bomb. So if you were in England and you heard that put, 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 you were okay. If you were in England and you heard put, 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 and then it stopped, it was time to find someplace to hide, because that meant it was coming down. Now this flew at about 300 miles an hour. And at the time, there were propeller-driven airplanes that could fly faster than 300 miles an hour. So they could either be shot down, or planes would fly next to them, put their wing under the V-1's wing and flip it over and make it crash. So there was a defense to the V-1. There was no defense to the V-2. This is the first ballistic missile used in war, again, developed by the Germans. The V-2 was developed by a German engineer, rocket engineer by the name of Wernher von Braun. At the end of World War II, both the United States and the Soviet Union were very anxious to get their hands on German rocket technology and the German rocket scientists and engineers. The United States captured Wernher von Braun and put him to work for us at NASA, and he was the primary architect behind the Saturn V rocket that took the first Americans to the moon. Well, all wars are tragic. The Germans used concentration camp labor to build the V-2. It's estimated that 10,000 people died during the construction of the V-2. Ironically, when it was used as a weapon, they estimate that only 5,000 people were killed. So more people were killed during the construction of the V-2 than when it was used as a weapon. This is America's first space station. This is Skylab. And in 1973, Skylab was launched to become America's first space station. This is the third stage of a Saturn V rocket. They just hollowed it out and made a space station out of it. This is what it looked like in space. 3 separate 3-man crews would visit Skylab and live and work in space in America's first space station. Eventually, the gravity and the resistance with the Earth's atmosphere started bringing it down. And in 1979, Skylab re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. You can see it's big. Not all of it was going to burn up in the atmosphere upon re-entry. So we were hoping that it was going to hit an ocean, because 70% of the Earth's surface is water. Anybody from Australia? Okay. Oh, I apologize. Skylab hit Australia. Nobody got hurt, but it did. Some of it did land in Australia.
Did you donate it to us where it landed?
Actually, okay, little side story here. A radio station in the United States put up a cash prize if anybody would bring in a piece of Skylab. A young man in Esperanza, what's it?
In Western Australia.
Yeah, Western Australia, found a piece of it, came to America to claim his prize. Esperance, thank you. Thank you. So there's a little bit of happy story. NASA for a while thought of putting up a second Skylab space station, but again, funding was cut. Ladies and gentlemen, this would have been Skylab 2. So once again, this is not a model, this is not a replica. This would have been in space, just as you see it right here. You can go into it from the second floor balcony. You can go into Skylab and look around inside and see how the astronauts lived in America's first space station. Well, at about this time, the United States and the Soviet Union said, this is dumb. Why are we competing against each other trying to get into space? We should be working together. So in 1975, the first time ever 2 countries decided to cooperate in space, with the Apollo-Soyuz project. This is the Apollo command module, the same that was used to go to the moon. This is the service module. This is the Russian Soyuz spacecraft. Because the two spacecraft have different atmospheres and use different gases and pressures, this device was built so that the two spaceships could link up and the astronauts could move between the two. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to the International Space Station today, you're going in a Soyuz rocket, just like that. That's how you're getting to the International Space Station. A 1967 version of the Russian ship that they were planning to take to the moon. Of course, like a 1967 car, a 2012 version is much more improved, and they've made a lot of improvements. This is the only way to get to the International Space Station aboard Soyuz after the United States retired its space shuttle fleet. So, in 1975, 3 Americans and 2 Russian cosmonauts met up in outer space for the first time of 2 nations working in space. Today we have the International Space Station, 17 countries working and living together in space. It has been continuously occupied since November of 2000. So we're coming up on 20 years of people living and working in space. Pretty cool. Remember I said that was the only way you're getting to the International Space Station? Later this year, the United States has turned over their low Earth orbit capability to private companies. And Boeing and SpaceX have both built spacecraft designed to carry people to the International Space Station. NASA has selected the astronauts which will fly those 2 spacecraft, and they're both scheduled for launch later this year, so stay tuned. The United States may be back in the low Earth business. NASA has turned its attention to going beyond low Earth orbit, to returning to the moon, to going to Mars or going to the asteroid belt. And to do that, they're going to go in what's called Orion. It's been called Apollo on steroids. This will be 5 astronauts who will be flying in a spaceship that looks like that. Launched by the Space Launch System, a very big rocket, but still not as big as the Saturn V. And this is what they will use again to go to the moon, back to Mars, or go back to Mars for the first time, back to the moon, go to Mars, or go to the asteroid belt. I like to wrap up my tours by talking about this object right here. Who knows what that is? It is the Hubble Space Telescope. It is not the real Hubble Space Telescope. It is a replica, a full-size replica of the Hubble Space Telescope. And you can see it's about as big as a school bus. It was named after a very famous astronomer by the name of Edwin Hubble. And in 1926, Edwin Hubble, looking through a telescope, realized that galaxies further away are receding away from us at a faster rate. So he figured, well, if everything's moving away from us at a faster rate, at one time everything had to be at the same spot, which led to the theory of the Big Bang. Exactly. So in his honor, they named the Hubble Space Telescope after Edwin Hubble. The replica you see here behind me was used for training astronauts in a very big swimming pool. This way the astronauts could learn how to work on Hubble in zero buoyancy, nearing the zero gravity conditions that they would need in space. In 1990, the Hubble was launched. This is what it looks like in space. It was launched by the Space Shuttle Discovery, which you can see at our Udvar Hazy Center. And people were very excited because now we were going to finally have a telescope in space. Telescopes on Earth have to look through the Earth's atmosphere. And the Earth's atmosphere has different temperatures, different densities. The wind is blowing. It's the reason stars twinkle. It's that the light gets bent as it passes through the atmosphere. It's like looking through water. Scientists cannot use a simple word like twinkle, so scientists say it's the reason stars scintillate. So the reason stars scintillate is because of the atmosphere. So we knew if we could ever get a telescope above the atmosphere, we would learn so much more about our universe. So in 1990, they launched the Hubble Space Telescope. And they were very excited. They opened up the door, they took their first look through the Hubble Space Telescope, and what happened?
Cannot see clearly.
It was blurred. The image was blurry. The image was no better than an Earth-based telescope. They were in such a hurry to get it launched that they did not check the primary mirror. They found later that the primary mirror was off by less than 1/50th the width of a human hair. But that was enough to make the focus of the mirror make the images blurry. So now NASA says, no, okay, now what do we do? Well, NASA backs up everything. They had a backup mirror. They didn't check the primary mirror, but they decided to check the backup mirror. The backup mirror was ground perfectly. It was perfect. And in fact, you can see Hubble's backup mirror. It's on display in our Exploring the Universe gallery right over there. You can go see Hubble's backup mirror. But then a professor in Cleveland, Ohio, I just thought I'd throw that out there, he said, well, what do we do with people when their vision starts to go? Glasses or contacts. So he says, let's give Hubble a contact. So the Hubble Space Telescope was always designed to be serviced. They sent up the space shuttle, and they sent up this device right here, about the size of a phone booth. Kids, ask your parents what a phone booth is. And this was basically Hubble's contact lens. By installing that, they could correct Hubble's vision. Everybody, while they were up there, they also installed a new wide field planetary camera, about the size of a baby grand. All the scientists and engineers held their breath. Would the contact lens work? The image on the left is a galaxy before the correction. The image on the right is the same galaxy after they installed the corrective lens. It worked. The difference was dramatic. Now we were off to the races. We started getting back all those images that we have come to associate with the Hubble Space Telescope. We've learned so much from the Hubble Space Telescope. We've learned that all of the stars that we see in our universe make up only 5% of the matter. The other 95% of the matter is something called dark matter, which we still don't know what it is. We knew that our universe was expanding, but would gravity eventually slow down that expansion? If we began in a big bang, would eventually gravity slow everything down? We would collapse and the universe would end in a big crunch? Hubble said, nope, the universe is going to go on expanding forever. So Hubble has added so much to our knowledge of our place in the universe. I'm going to end with one quick story. The Hubble Space Telescope is run by an organization called the Space Telescope Institute, which has their headquarters in Baltimore, Maryland, just up the road from us. And the director of the Space Telescope Institute, as one of his or her fringe benefits, gets 2 weeks every year to look at whatever they want to look at with the Hubble Space Telescope. So in 1995, the director said, I want to look at nothing. And all the scientists in the world went crazy. All the astronomers said, this is arguably the most important scientific instrument in the history of mankind, and you want to look at nothing? And he said, yep. So he picked out a part of the sky near the Big Dipper. A part of the sky, if you held a sewing needle out at arm's length, the eye of the needle is how much of the sky that he looked at. And he pointed the Hubble Space Telescope at that spot, thinking nothing was there. And this is the image we got back. Ladies and gentlemen, I will point to every individual star that's in this photograph. One. There's only one star in this photograph. Everything else is a galaxy. Everything else is a galaxy with hundreds of billions of stars. We now know that just about every star has planets around it. They're called exoplanets, and we're learning more about them all the time. So if there's hundreds of billions of stars and hundreds of billions of galaxies, there could be something else out there in outer space. And I'm not just talking about tiny microscopic things. There could be whales and dolphins and mermaids. So this is pretty exciting. Hubble's successor is a telescope called the James Webb Space Telescope. The James Webb Space Telescope is set to be launched in March of 2021. It will be launched to a position of, by the way, any telescope the bigger the primary mirror, the more light you can gather, the more efficient. The one on the left is Hubble's primary mirror. The one on the right is the James Webb Space Telescope's mirror. It's estimated that we'll be able to see 7 times further with James Webb than we had with Hubble. We better get it right the first time, because if we don't get it right the first time, there is no repairing the James Webb Space Telescope. It's going to be launched to a point 1 million miles away from the Earth. It's called the Lagrange 2 point, and it's a point where the gravity of the Earth and the Sun will balance out what's ever in that position, so it'll stay in that position as it orbits around the Sun. We think that we'll be able to see back to the Big Bang, that we'll be able to see the first light emitted. We think that with the James Webb Space Telescope, we'll be able to look at some of those exoplanets, to look at their atmospheres, to see what their atmospheres are made of. If we are able to figure out what the atmospheres of another planet are made of, what do you think we may be able to find? Yeah, life. And I'm not just talking Europeans this time, I'm talking life. So this is a very, very exciting time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at the National Air and Space Museum. Thank you.